Doesn't just avoid any kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite fearful, isn't it, when you just avoid a person? And
Yeah.
she was.
It also means you can't resolve anything.
Yeah.
So we wanted to find out right from the beginning what the rules are for the room, because
Yes.
we do that at every venue.
And,
But they wouldn't even meet with us to do that. So.
No. Yeah. And the other staff keep saying it's nothing to do with us, so I can't, because it would be nice to put some heating on, wouldn't it? I wonder if that is heating on the wall here. Yes, it is. Okay.
Oh, there
All
it
right.
goes.
Let's see how that goes, guys.
It's going to be in the recording, but yeah.
Yeah, it's the hum in the recording,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. But is it cold or hot?
It's set. It's set to heat.
It's set to heat.
Yeah.
So we don't want to put it on and make you colder.
All right. We'll see how that goes.
I think it is. It is working. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just today I feel a bit cool. Did you guys feel cool other days? I didn't so much. No, it's just today, isn't it? Yeah.
No, it's a lot to do with your fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got quite a bit of fear today,
yeah.
so I feel
Yeah,
it. But
yeah.
that's why I asked everyone else. But you've probably all got a lot of fear too. So Jesus is like super good at regulating his body temperature. He's like pretty static body temperature these days, aren't you? And he smells good.
So embarrassing. Now they have everybody coming up and sniffing you. So.
But yeah, he does. It doesn't. Like, sometimes I sweat, and because of it's stinky because of my fear. Jesus, he can come in from working all day outside, and I'm like, oh, you still smell nice. Yeah.
Fear does cause a lot of problems in your body, hey?
Yeah, it does.
It's interesting when we do talk about dark spirit influence, how many of you feel quite afraid, and you can see why people who engage dark spirit influence in a power way, often you pander to because you already feel quite afraid.
Yeah.
So the average person who wants power can get it pretty easily. Yeah. And most people in the world who want power know that. Yeah. If every time somebody wanted power you didn't give them any, that'd be the more loving thing to do, wouldn't it? And every time that happened you didn't give them any, eventually they'd learn that they can't do it. And then also all the spirits who influence them to do it also wouldn't be able to influence them. Imagine if for Hitler, someone like Hitler, if everybody decided he's a bit of a maniac wanting to exterminate Jews and wanting to do all of those things, and all those things were wrong, and wanted to take the world to war rather than being some other resolution to problems, wanted to build a big arms race, which is what he was doing. Of course, there was a lot of emotion in the German population that caused them to support it, and also a lot of anger in from the First World War in other nations wanting to, oppose it, and as a result of that, he could easily gain power over others because most people were in agreement with him. So the reality is he's not as responsible for the problems of the Second World War as people tend to think, because there's many people who participated who were in complete agreement with the same philosophy. But he was the one willing to take power, and he was the one willing to dominate and control. Imagine if everybody said, we're not going to go along.
It's like a form of restriction, isn't it?
No matter how he rants and raves, and he might get out a gun and even try to shoot some people himself, but if everybody said, well, that's wrong, we'll throw him in jail now, Second World War probably wouldn't have happened, right? So it does boil down to the fact that a person who wants power relies on you giving them it. And so who's worse? The person wanting the power or the person who's willing to give it under immoral circumstances? Yeah. So it's something that needs to be considered. This is why your fear is immoral. At some point, we're going to have a chat about that, probably in the USA, I'd say.
Yep, it's a big fallacy on the earth that
Yeah.
fear is somehow innocent,
A protective good
and
thing.
protective, and yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Okay,
Homework.
let's talk about God's standard of humility.
Humility.
I'm going to come over here, so I'm closer to you.
No worries. Okay, what did you come up with, guys? Remember, the homework was to list what you think humility is and then try to obtain from God what God's version of humility is. That was the homework. So who wants to start? Amy, would you like to start? Thanks. Just keep your hand up, Amy.
Oh, right in front of the camera. Just wave for the camera, Tim. Yeah, yeah.
Right in front of his own camera.
Yeah.
So I wrote a list of what I thought humility was.
Yep, fire away.
And then
What did you have on your list, Amy?
and then after that I asked God.
Yeah.
And then after that, then I went through my list and asked God, is this humility or not?
Oh yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but let's start with what your own list. Can we do that?
Open-heartedness,
Open heart. Yeah.
being receptive,
Receptive.
desire for truth,
So a desire for truth rather than just, oh yeah, truth. Yep. Truth. Yep.
feelings.
Feelings. What do you mean by feelings? Having them.
Yeah.
Yep. So having feelings. Yep.
Yeah. Then that was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And-
And then
When you asked God, did you get anything more?
I got acceptance.
Acceptance. Yeah. Is what you think. Yep.
Yeah. And then that's when I went through the list to ask about the prior
Okay.
list.
And
So-
what did
and
what did
what did
you
God
get
s-
about your first list?
So were all these a part of humility?
I felt more of a strong one for feelings and desire for truth.
Okay, so if I put a green tick mostly on desire for truth and feelings for the moment, right? Yep, those two. Yep.
The other two, I didn't get a positive or negative either way.
You didn't get
I
a
just
strong
felt,
feeling.
yeah,
about
I
them,
just
so
felt the
let's
other
just
two.
leave that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about this one? You feel that definitely came from God?
Yeah, I just felt like when you were mentioning yesterday about having a feeling about something, or asking God and then getting the confirmation through.
So like what you really mean there is accepting the answers. Like, is that what you mean? Because acceptance can also mean like you accept somebody's right to exist, or you accept somebody's equal to you, or acceptance is a very general term, isn't it? So it's not a very specific term. So what in particular are we accepting? And if you don't know, Amy, that's fine. Just
Acceptance of the truth.
yeah, well, you've really sort of put that there. Desire for truth is better than an acceptance of truth, isn't it? Because desire means you've got a passion for it. You're like, and of course that's going to mean you accept. Yeah. There are some things we need to accept in humility, but I think we need to be more specific.
Yeah.
Does that make
When
sense?
did anyone else have that on my list? I've got sort of not just single words, explanations,
Yeah.
states of being. Yeah.
Okay. Well, rather than Mary say what's on your
I'm
list,
not going to share my list.
we'll go. Let's come down to the girls at the front here.
Yep.
So Charlotte.
Nelli, if we go to
Yeah. Charlotte first, and then Nelly next. Yep.
I wrote down acceptance of God's authority.
Right. So you wrote down acceptance of God's authority. Yeah.
And I feel also of the laws.
Which is sort of a part of
Which
God's
is really
authority,
God's
isn't
authority,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
Too? Yeah. The law is God's authority, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I had a cry yesterday, so I could analyze myself,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I also had having feelings.
Yep. So you had
yeah.
having feelings. Yep.
Willing to look at my mistakes.
So
Which is
yes,
maybe
so we
yeah.
we'll write that down, should we? Willingness to look at mistakes.
Yeah, I think there's a lot we need to say about mistakes.
Yep. Now I'm going to have to write this acceptance, get rid of this acceptance. We'll come back to acceptance because we have to put it over here somewhere because we run out of space. So, yep. Anything else?
Yeah, and which is probably the opposite of arrogance, like being open for someone else's opinion about me.
Okay. So open to others' opinions. Is that what you feel?
And Nelli said about herself.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, curiosity.
Curiosity. Good. Yep.
Don't know if it's like seeking.
Seeking.
And perseverance.
Perseverance.
Yeah.
Be myself.
Okay. Yeah. You mean your true self or your fake self? You know,
My true
there's a
self.
number of
So
selves,
it is
isn't it?
more
So be true.
some
be
that I don't feel yet.
True self. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Equality.
Equality. Okay.
That's it.
Okay. And when did you sort of talk about any of these things?
With God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
And you feel that all of those things were agreed with? So you started here basically, this part here.
I think so. Yes.
I'm not asking you to do it now. I'm asking whether you did do it.
I didn't.
No, that's okay.
I
That's
checked
okay.
myself, and then I don't know if I asked God or if I.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
But more thought has to go into it.
Okay.
Yep. We go straight back to behind. Thanks.
So,
It's helpful if you choose a side, isn't
Yeah,
it? So,
it's
helpful
and
if you
then
choose a
don't-
side.
Yeah.
yeah, we
It is
experimented
interesting.
with like that and that, but all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really feel that I knew what it was myself. I was kind of sitting there thinking I haven't got a clue.
Closer with the mic. Yep.
I kind of felt I hadn't got a clue what humility was.
Yeah.
So, but I just wrote a few lines, and they all started with willing.
Yeah.
Willing to feel my emotion, willing for God to lead the way, willing not to be controlled by others.
So just let me catch up. Oceans. Willing to, what was the other one? God.
God to lead the
Lead
way.
Willing for God to lead. Yeah.
And what was the next one, Jean?
Willing not to be controlled by others. But I didn't know whether that was
Willing to not be controlled by others.
by others.
Or what if we just said not being controlled by others?
Not being-
Yeah.
yeah.
Not controlled by others. Okay.
I'm not sure if this one is to willing again to follow my desire and passion.
So to willing to follow passions. Now, can I just make some comments first before we go further? You notice we've used the word acceptance a lot and willingness a lot. Yep. None of that's humility. Okay. What word should I be using instead? Desire.
Wanting, desire. A lot of us feel like humility, oh, well, I have to. I'm willing to. Yeah, not, yeah, I want to.
Can you see the difference? Willing is just go, I'll go along with that. It's very passive actually, isn't it? By saying willing, acceptance, very passive. It's sort of like, I accept that. Oftentimes we use the word willing and acceptance because we really don't accept it and we're really not that willing, right? And it's a nice way of sort of getting out of things. Because if you really look at it, for the majority of times we don't have a desire. And we know in ourselves often we don't have a desire. And so we'd rather use the word willing because that's more in alignment with, oh, that feels good, I'm willing, that kind of thing. And instead of going, oh, that feels really bad, I don't have that desire at all. I don't have that desire. So let's look at desire for, I'll put there, God's authority. Can you see the difference between willing versus desire for? Willing is going, oh yeah, I get it, God's got authority. And I'm going, the average person goes, well, so what? Like, you know, they say, yeah, we can all, if they believe in God at all, they'll go, yeah, we can admit God's got authority. But when you start looking at the nitty-gritties of what God's got authority over, the average person is very much in it against where God has authority over your life. He has authority over your body, all the laws that govern how your body works are all created by God. So he has authority over your body. He has authority over your spirit body in the same. He also has authority over your soul in the sense that all of the laws that govern how the soul works were all created by God. Right? He has authority over who your partner is. It's your soulmate, and that's it. And you're not going to choose them. He did. Because he designed the soul to be a jewel, and that's the nature of the soul. It's a part of creation. He has complete authority over that. You don't. He has authority over how the universe works, everything in the universe and how it functions. He has authority over what happens to you when you sin, right? Now, a lot of people go, well, I accept God's authority. I accept God exists. I accept that he made the laws. But when it comes to you going to hell because you broke some, then you'll see how much you accepted God's authority. You see, a person who accepted God's authority doesn't enter the hells when they pass. So if you enter the hells when you pass, you didn't accept God's authority even though you thought you did. So there's many Christians, for example, and Muslims in that condition right now who believed in God while they were on earth and believed they accepted God's authority and feared God, and yet they're in the hells. Right? So when you say acceptance or willingness, it's a very passionless state. And humility requires more of you than that. It requires more of you than just being willing. You understand? It requires passion and desire, not willing. Yeah? So up back.
As I was doing the homework, I realized that I have no clue at all, really no clue,
Yeah.
from what's from my point of view, humility. So I really remembered what I was listening from you. Yeah, what is that? So I write it really like in school.
Yeah. Wrote.
To feel all the feelings, and so and then I was looking for mine, and I felt so I have no idea.
Isn't it funny, just to stop you, but isn't it funny that we can talk about it for years with some of these things, we talk about some emotions for years, and we talk about love for years, and we talk about truth for years, and yet very few of us even studied what it is. Isn't it? We just almost presume, don't we? But when somebody asks you, well, what does it mean? Who looked it up in the dictionary? Yeah, I can understand. Like, that's a good idea, isn't it? To see what the world's definition is a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and so as you mentioned, as I Googled it, what it's in German,
Yeah.
I found myself, no, I got it. I realized that I did all that. I just put it in because I was taught to do so.
Yeah.
It's very unloving there was written the willingness to sacrifice.
Okay.
Or the necessity and the willingness to accept the circumstances.
Sacrifice.
You're right. They've just made that a night.
Oh, yeah, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Vice, sacrifice.
I see you. Yeah.
Vice. I see. And the other one was...
The other one was a necessity and willingness to accept the circumstances.
Yeah, acceptance of circumstances.
It's interesting. That one.
That's interesting, isn't it? A lot of people feel that.
And also self-abasement.
Self-abasement.
Yeah.
Sirs. And self-abasement,
That's heavy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Abasement, yeah.
And I'm really used
It
to...
means putting yourself down. And
Yeah.
So in other words, when you're in a discussion with somebody, it's like, put myself as lower than them.
Yeah.
You know, and that way I'm humble.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. And so this is the way I lived
Yeah.
the whole time.
Yeah.
It's, and this is...
These are very powerful acknowledgements, aren't they? Can you see?
Yeah, it's very... Yeah.
Yeah, they are, because you can then go, whoa, that's what I was... Every time Jesus talked about humility, that's what I was thinking. That's what I was feeling. And you can see why most people are not willing to have humility, because we're already thinking and feeling that a lot of the things involved are pretty heavy. Yeah?
And whenever I be...
Just hold the microphone on
Just
your
closer
chin.
so we can hear better.
Yeah.
Okay, whenever I started to experience the humility, the way of humility you teaching,
Yep.
when I was younger, I got punished.
Yes. Yes. So what did that do for you?
Sorry?
What did that do to you when you got punished?
It made you afraid of it, didn't it? Like,
Yes,
you know,
yes, and I...
Terror.
A lot of terror, and I'm not myself. I don't know who I am.
Yep.
And I'm playing how I am. Yeah, I'm not. It's not me. It's not me. It's just very.
So you're sort of playing a role.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. It's good self-awareness. Obviously, these things are not humility.
No.
So
not.
we need to, we'll talk about that a bit. But but it's good that you note them down, because most people on earth think they are.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, Anna, you want to have a step? Yep.
Okay, so I've got sincerity.
Sincerity. Okay.
Softness.
Softness, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Softness. Soft.
In the moment or immediate. Like something about it being in the moment. I couldn't find the word though.
Yeah, I know what you mean. In the sense,
What about being present in myself in them? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, present, I guess.
you mean like feeling what you feel right now rather than delaying it?
Yeah, instantaneous kind of.
Yeah. Okay. So how do we describe
Yeah.
that? As a good thing? Yeah, it's true. It's
Yeah.
instant
You bite off these words.
emotion.
Yeah.
Should we
Yeah.
say.
I thought you were going to do instantaneous. That would have been a challenge for me.
Passionate.
Passionate. Yes. Okay.
Aware.
Aware. Okay. Now I'm writing these, but I'm not agreeing with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just know that. So far.
Don't write them down as the definitions.
And sensitive.
Sensitive. Yeah.
And then the last one is I had brave come up, but that was the only one that I felt wasn't
Brave.
agreed with. That's.
But the rest you thought God agreed with.
I thought that, yeah,
Okay.
being
Good.
honest.
Who wants to have another step if we come over here? Yep.
Go to Inga. Yep.
Inga.
And who had their hand up on this side? Yep. If we come to you after that.
Okay. I'm going to run out of board space. We'll probably have to stop when I run out of board space.
Do you want
No.
me to start writing them in the spaces?
No, because I want to
wanna-
work on some. Yeah.
Okay. I wrote wanting, but I changed it now to desire.
Yeah.
Desire to repent and forgive.
All right. So desire to repent and forgive.
And desire to feel all my sins and be aware of them.
Desire to feel sin.
Yeah.
Can you feel sin, or do you feel the consequence of sin?
Yeah, the consequences.
Really, we want to
Yeah.
feel the cause and effect of sin.
Yeah. To know what I have done
Yeah.
in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And we were
And
over
over
here.
here. Yep.
So I had asked myself first and then asked God.
Yep.
And my words were things like, you've had them before: soft, open, welcoming, patient, undemanding.
Yeah.
And then when I asked God, it was firm, decisive, strong. And I was going, but that's not right. It's like, it's funny.
Interesting, eh?
Yeah.
It is.
So God contradicted you, or you contradicted God.
Well, yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
writing them down and going, no, God, is humility. Humility.
You're not understanding God. I'm asking a different question.
You haven't got it right, guys.
Yeah.
Just can we change
The question.
Yeah.
change the words? Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah. Okay. Now, isn't it funny? Like soft and firm. Well, that's very contrary.
But they're both. But they're not. Because I was thinking they're not opposites.
Aren't they?
Well, they're sort of.
I'm sure if you looked at the definition, dictionary definition of soft, it'd probably say
Yeah, yeah.
the opposite is
I
firm.
think I was thinking of like soft and strong.
Yeah.
Can be both. Something can be both.
Well, see, when you say soft, don't you really mean gentle?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I was going to
yes.
say. It's a gentleness, isn't it? You're referring
So
to.
let's change soft, because it implies something completely different, doesn't it?
Yes.
Gentle. Gentle. Okay. Okay, you want to have a stab at us? And then we'll go across to...
So at first I put what I think humility is,
Okay.
and I listed loads of things.
Yeah.
Not being arrogant, understanding that you know nothing compared to God,
Yeah.
being willing to feel all your feelings.
Now you're just repeating all the things I've said to you.
Yeah. And then when I actually asked in my soul, it was, I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. That's honest, yeah.
And then when I asked God, he just said, understanding me. But I put God because he
He said
it.
understanding me, so that
Yeah.
means understanding God.
Yeah.
Gotcha, yeah. G'day. Brian?
Oh, just keep going across. Yep.
Just across, yeah.
One of the ones I had was facing reality emotionally
Oh, yeah, that's good.
as God sees it.
So facing reality. I'll just write reality there. That should remind us. Facing reality as God sees reality, not as I do. Yeah.
And then when I asked God, I didn't ask for very long, but I got speaking up for God's truth about love.
Okay. Yep. So how would we describe that? Sort of like having the bravery to speak up? See, a lot of times what you call bravery is actually like, I think it's just humility. Like,
Yeah.
because bravery, when you're humble, you're automatically brave because you know, I'll just trust God completely, and I'll do what God tells me to do in terms of, in this situation, God's laws is tell the truth, so I'll tell the truth. You know, and that's just being humble to God, to God's law being tell the truth. If I am arrogant, I'll go, oh, in this situation, I think I could just modify that truth a bit, and I think I can just embellish it a little bit, and I think I can just, you know, not say that particular thing that needs to be said because it seems like I might get attacked for that, right? And not realising that you think that's humble, but it's not humble at all, right? Yep. We could keep going, couldn't we?
Add one.
Tim, you want to add one?
Just responsible.
Responsible?
I don't know.
What do you mean by responsible?
Like, you're self-responsible.
Self-responsible?
Yeah.
Response.
Your feelings, your life, your everything. It feels like it's a humble thing to like take care of yourself.
Yeah, good eye. Which is a bit contrary again to some other things like desire for God to lead. Okay. So which one is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there we go. There's the list. Well, God's not very impressed. And the first thing I want to illustrate here is that, can you see how when we use a word, your past definition of that word severely taints the message we are trying to give you? So if I use the word humility and you think of sacrifice, right, acceptance of circumstances, self-abasement, for example, then if that's what you're thinking humility is, I understand why most of you don't want to do it. You see what I mean? Right? And this is part of the problem, is that we have so many definitions of words in any language. So your language of your childhood, for some of you that's Swedish, for some of you it's
German.
Maybe Gaelic for some of you, German for some of you, it's Swiss or whatever. You know, whatever that language of your childhood is, whatever the way you learnt the word to mean there, will often have a very large taint on what you then interpret what is being said to you. Does that make sense, doesn't it? Makes total sense. So the problem is if I were brought up to say, to believe through religious training, through my relationship with my parents, through school, through whatever other means that I was taught in my childhood, to believe that certain things are true about humility, the word humility, then of course I'm going to carry that into my adulthood. And then every discussion I hear about humility, I'll think, I got it. I understand what that is. And we don't even consider, wow, I didn't know what that is. I don't know from God's perspective what that is. Like, so when we talk about principles, remember the point of this exercise was all the spiritual laws, remember, from yesterday, are the primary things that govern your life. Remember that? And if we can focus on developing ourselves in harmony with spiritual laws, then that's going to have the most power over my progress in my life, right? Now, when you examine this, you go, okay, these principles associated with love are the most important things to know and understand. The most important. So if we start talking about a principle, now there are, as we mentioned, there's a solid 17 principles we mentioned in that talk about in 2016. But if you look at the fundamental ones, we actually are that, which are love itself, truth, faith, and humility. Most of us have taints from our childhood in our understanding of the very word. So the problem is then we start throwing away these words like we know them. We start talking about them like we know them. We start thinking, and it sort of almost an arrogance sort of develops in that state, doesn't it? Where you think you know what's being discussed, and yet that's not what it means from God's perspective. And so the problem with that is that you're hearing information, but you're actually already interpreting the information through those filters. And so when I'm saying things, you're interpreting to be something completely different. And this is why it's so hard using words to discuss spiritual matters, because the interpretation of those words is going to be very dependent upon the emotional state of the individual. That makes sense, doesn't it? Yep. If we have a mic back there, just keep your hand up, sir.
Yeah, as you mentioned it, I really ask myself, I mean, it's silly, but I ask myself because of this issue, for interpretation and thinking, is it really, I wrote this question, or my question is, did I really get it? Did I really learn the truth just by feeling? I mean, it sounds, but I don't get it. So, and is it, I mean, is it possible just by feeling?
Yeah, well, see, this is the thing too, isn't it? That these are words, right? And if you actually can feel God, you know that humility isn't any word. Mm-hmm. You could say it's a attitude. You could also say it's an emotion.
A state.
A state.
Yeah.
A state of being is another way of saying it. A state that's existing in your soul. It's not just a word, right? But the trouble with language is that we have to somehow say words in order for the person to start to feel what the state feels like. You follow? But you can see it if we use the wrong words, then we can get to feelings that are nothing like the intention God has when God has the feeling. So when God doesn't, God can give you the sense of the feeling better than he can give you the words relating to the feeling, because for God there is no language, there are feelings, right? And then he knows you might speak one of the 7,000 languages or so on earth. He knows that, but he also knows that almost every one of those languages are flawed with regard to the expression of feelings, right? So humility, firstly, is based upon feelings, but let's define feelings, because there's a number of different types of feelings. There's firstly the feelings that come through the sensory apparatus of your body. So that's like feeling of touch, right? That's a feeling that you get. You know, when a sound is so intense that the whole body vibrates, that's the feeling of sound, isn't it? It's like we feel sound, not just hear it, right? We can also feel what we see, because what we see produces feelings inside of us, right? So we actually can feel what we see, not just see it, but feel what we see. So this is why when you go to a lovely view and you sit down in front of it and you breathe in and out a bit and relax a bit, you start to feel the view. When you look at a lovely tree, you can just look at it as a tree, or you can sit underneath the tree and feel the tree, feel the energy of the tree, can't you? And it's often very healing because it's feeling of it. So this is the sensory part of feeling, right? Then there's the emotional part of feeling, isn't there? All the different types of emotions. Remember, yesterday I recommended we check out different types of emotions, the definitions of them, and then work through, well, what does that feel like? Yeah? So of course, humility being based upon emotions and feelings, naturally we need to start to understand feelings. So you could say one definition of humility is understanding my feelings. Couldn't you?
Yeah.
You could even say that, couldn't you? And that would be a truth, actually. Understanding your feelings, not being confused about them. Mm. Right? When you're confused about them, you're not understanding them and therefore not humble yet. Mm. Right? So it's interesting when people When we travel a lot, people barrage us a lot with emotional questions because they don't understand their own feelings. But that's proof there's no humility, because a person who has humility understands all their feelings. They understand what's going on with all of their feelings, right? Yeah. So open heart is true, isn't it? That is true. Now, receptive. How does that sound as a word to you? Receptive. Does it sound passive or active? Passive. Okay, humility is not passive, so that goes. Yeah. Desire for truth. There's a strong yes on that one. Is there a strong yes on that one with all of you? I just want to get some consensus now, you see. Strong, you do feel some consensus there? Desire for truth. Having feelings, like, and I've defined feelings as both emotions and sensory feelings. So an example is if you don't feel your body injuries, then you're not humble. Because a person who's humble will feel them immediately. Now, what you choose to do with them after that depends, but you will feel them immediately. Right? So immediately there's a physical problem in your body if you haven't felt it. Like, let's say a person gets cancer and they don't feel it for 2 years. That's a lot of lack of humility, because you should be able to feel it as soon as it even starts, or even before it starts. You can feel it even coming on with the attitude you have if you're actually humble. So that's an example, right? No humility about that issue. So having feelings, emotions and feelings we're talking about. Desire for God's authority. Well, obviously that must be true, mustn't it? But there's more to that, isn't there?
Yeah,
a lot more to that.
There is a lot more to that.
A lot more. What else is there to that? Well, there's things like, do I love God's authority? Right? Do I respect that God made all the laws? Do I love all the laws? You can see there's a lot involved in loving all the laws. Like, what about the laws pertaining to your soul that demand that you feel and are responsible for every emotion? Do you love that law? Right? What about the law that says that every time you commit a sin towards someone else, you're going to have to repair it? Do you love that law? Do you demonstrate a love of that law in your own life? That you when you find yourself, you've done something wrong, that you immediately try to do something to repair it, in the sense of emotionally, both the cause and its effect.
Because here, when we talk about love, again, we're talking about an indiscriminate word, aren't we? But when you love something, you want to engage with it, don't you?
Yeah.
You're seeking it, aren't you?
So a desire to see the mistakes, is that humility?
Yes.
No, it's not. A desire to feel the mistakes. Sorry? And to correct them, obviously, but a desire to feel them first. If you don't feel them, you're not going to correct them. Most people say, I see I did that wrong, and they feel nothing. Nothing is going to change, right? Because you didn't feel it. When you're humble, you will feel every sin and what it did to every single person around you. You're going to feel it. You will feel that you can't do it anymore as well, right? Because you're humble, you'll be sensitive to the effect of what the mistakes were. So desire to feel the mistakes, not just see them, not just talk about them, not just be open to hearing them. None of that. It's the desire to actually feel them, to go through them. Now, acceptance of others' opinions. I think you mentioned that, Nelli. What do you reckon?
It was more than being open.
Mike? Yep. Open to others' opinions? It means the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same as the one before.
Yeah.
No?
It's not the same as the one before, no. That is nowhere near the same as that. Like they're light years away from each other.
I don't know.
So you see, a lot of people think, you're not being humble because you didn't listen to me. Does that make you lack humility? What makes you lack humility? you didn't listen to God. Not me, God. You didn't listen to God's principles. That's what makes you arrogant. Not that you didn't listen to me. You follow? Because my law and principle might be completely different to God. And if you listen to me and you actually do something about it, you're going to be terribly tainted by listening to me. So you definitely don't want to get others' opinions. There should be no time in your life where you want others' opinions.
I think when I wrote it down and I forgot when I said it, I had a /God, like others.
See, that's different, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if we say a desire for God's opinion, that's exactly what it is, exactly humble. Desire for God's opinion. But see how we get it all mixed up, because at the beginning of your life, who was God in your life? Mum and Dad. And so they told you have to accept their opinions. And so you then go on in life after you grow up thinking humility is accepting other people's opinions, because you had to accept your mum and dad's opinions. Most of your mum and dad's opinions are faulty from God's perspective. In fact, almost every one of them. Like, the earth does not get to the hells by mistake. It gets to the hells by every single one of everybody's opinions being in the hells. That's how it gets there, right? So you can pretty much assume that anyone's personal opinion is probably going to be faulty. So why listen to them? Right? This is why many times I stop you from talking. I don't want to listen to your faulty opinion. Most people don't understand that. Well, why would I want to promote, remember, we're recording these presentations, sharing them with the whole world. Why would I want anybody to hear your faulty opinion? I'm happy for them to hear your question, and I'm happy to hear my response to the question, but hearing your faulty opinion, that has to be corrected while you're saying it. And that's why a lot of times some of you put up your hand and say, well, I've got a question and it's based upon the fact that, my mum didn't love me very much. And I go, well, let's just stop there, right? And you go, why? I'm annoyed now with you stopping me because, well, none of your sin is based on your mum's actions. So if I let people think who are listening to this, that other people listening think that your sin is based on mum's actions, then it's completely wrong. Your sin, the reason why it's attributed to you is because it's yours, right? This is just a fundamental principle of actually self-responsibility, right? Which is not actually a state of humility, but we'll talk about that. So others' opinions, no, not interested. Now, can you see what most people feel about that? You should listen to my opinions. You should let me express my opinion. You should let me have my opinion. And I'm going, well, you're allowed to have your opinion. I just don't want to hear it, unless it's God's. Right? Unless it's in alignment with God's, I can listen to your opinion, and sometimes I will listen to people's opinions, but frequently it's a waste of time.
So can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
So when we're not connected with God yet, to directly feel if someone's opinion is in alignment with God.
Yeah, which is a major problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because otherwise we don't know. People express their opinions all day, every day, don't they? The newspaper is full of opinions, the telly's full of opinions, everyone's full of opinions. And if I can't measure them using some method that's reliable, can you see there's going to be problems in my life if I can't do that? Yeah.
So then, would I listen and assess later about?
Well, the key, there are times, you see, when you can feel the emotion of the person, there's times when you don't need to listen at all. At all. If the emotion is tainted, then, let's say the emotion is I want power over you. And you can feel that I want power over you. Every single thing I say is tainted. Anything I say about myself, anything I say about you. What I think the truth is, what I think God's truth, all tainted by my desire for power. You follow?
Yes. I often have a body sensation where it doesn't feel well.
Yep.
But then I don't know if it's an error of mine or if it's
We see the problem for most of us is that we've become so detuned from our emotional state because we were taught as young children to become detuned, and we were taught what we felt was not exactly what mum and dad think is right. So then there's a disparity between mum and dad's feelings and my feelings. And mum and dad are teaching us they're God, and their feelings are the ones that are right. So now what do? Now I've got to, at some point, start detuning from my feelings. And then on top of that, I get errors in my own feelings through my addictions. So now if I'm measuring just by my own feelings what you're doing, I could have like 25 errors in what I'm feeling from you that might not have anything to do with what you're feeling. They're just what I think you feel or feel you feel. And I'm not actually feeling you, I'm feeling all my errors. Right? So that's not reliable either. So it's not reliable to say having feelings is humble. Can you see that?
Yes.
Because when you're in addiction, most of your feelings are completely arrogant. Completely. Like every single thing you feel when you're in every single addiction, every time you have that addiction, you are not feeling your feelings. You are acting upon something that causes you to deny your real feelings. That's why you want the addiction. So it's not accurate to say having feelings is humility. The feelings have to be in harmony with the truth in order for you to be humble, right? And this is the trouble most people have with emotion, is they go, I feel that, you're pulling me down, let's say. Now, there are times when the person may be pulling you down and you will feel from them a feeling of condescension or ridicule towards yourself, right? Many of you have that with me even during this presentation. You've had that, right? There are times when I'm saying something and you go, oh, God, that can't be true, right? And that's the feeling. That's the feeling you're having. Then there's other times when you'll go, I can feel the person loves me and cares about me, right? And they're saying things that I feel like totally wrong, like about me. Totally wrong. Now, the reason why that might be happening is because you may actually have had lots and lots of emotional injuries that then cause you to have lots of demands about how you should be perceived and how you perceive yourself and how you think life should be, and all of them may be wrong, right? From God's perspective, all of them may be wrong. And oftentimes, if we're coming from the hills, we have to expect that most of them are wrong, don't we? We've sort of got to go, the way we've got to see it is, my opinion is like an ant's opinion. Does it really matter in the scheme of life? Does that make sense? It's like it is a thing, and it obviously is probably guiding my own life, and maybe the life of people I influence. But at the end of the day, my own opinions are just like, compared to God's opinions, God's got the truth, the absolute, infinite truth, and I've got this finite little ant feeling of something being my opinion. Do my opinions matter? Of course they don't. This is why when it comes to changing my opinions, it's easy, because they don't matter to me very much, right? God's opinions, you try to change God's opinion to me, good luck with that. A lot of people have tried. And they've gotten so angry, frustrated, yelling, screaming at me, all sorts of things. But I won't move. You follow? Because I don't care about my own opinion. What I care about is what is God's. So here, when you said others' opinion, let's change it to be what it should be.
God's opinion.
God's opinion. Now, of course, as you correctly point out, it's pretty hard to find God's opinion when you're not humble. So it's sort of like you got to be careful that you're not in this, like trying to find God's opinion, but you're not prepared to have an open heart. You're not having a desire for truth. You're not allowing yourself to feel all of your emotions in harmony with truth and those that are outside of harmony with truth. So you can see that some of these things depend on other things happening, right?
Yeah, I mean, we need to say that humility, and you've sort of said that, but to tie it together, it as a state, it feels to me like I'm desiring God's truth, like I'm seeking it passionately while having my feelings. That's all a part of the state. So if I'm just having a feeling and I don't also have a seeking of God's truth at the same time, well, God's truth can't enter me for a start, but also I can't really trust that that feeling is going to lead me to truth because I'm not seeking the truth. I'm not releasing necessarily anything. So it's this is what I love about the 5 principles that Jesus has taught, love, truth, humility, faith, and action. When you start to feel them, you realize, they're all a part of one thing in a way or another.
They're all a part of love, aren't they?
They all come together. There's aspects of all of them in each other. So truth and humility are very closely aligned, and the seeking of truth is quintessential to.
Well, you could say truth is facts, couldn't you?
Yes.
God's facts, God's reality, and humility is my ability to be able to feel them all.
My loving desire, my passionate desire to feel them all. Yeah.
My passionate desire to feel them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Can you see how each sort of taint changes the way we view a thing? And it manipulates it to a point where it becomes unrecognizable. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. All right. Aria, you want to? Sure.
So it's related to humility. On day 1, I asked you a question about not sharing all the truth all at once because perhaps of love. And your response was that you would always share the truth because it's loving. And your response also was that I don't have a connection with my conscience for like thinking that way. But then afterwards, you shared that if someone was going to harm me, you would not tell them where I would be hiding. You would just tell them.
Ari, can I just stop you? Because your attitude this weekend has been very antagonistic.
I'm trying to understand.
No, I'm telling you, it is. It is. You have a lot of antagonism, especially towards Jesus, and it's not welcome here. You say you're trying to understand, but if you could feel the feelings that come out of you at the same time. No, I don't agree. You are not afraid. You're not feeling afraid. You're feeling forceful and
You want
pushy.
power.
Yeah.
You want power.
There's this dynamic that Jesus drew on the board with the spirits wanting power and you seeking power and the codependence. This is playing out in your life, and I can feel a difference in you from when we first
You
met.
want power over your fear. It's not the same.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm feeling like I'm confronting my fear.
Yeah, and I'm saying you're placing a lot of demands on others that they make it okay for you to speak. And when we interrupt in any way, you project that we're harming you, when really, when you have your fear, you won't place demands on others to take that fear away. You'll just have it.
You're being very badly influenced by some very dark spirits at the moment, Aria. And it's the path I see you taking from a spiritual perspective is going to end up with a lot of darkness for you if you're not careful. And that's one thing we're trying to help you with, but it's something you do not respect at all. And we care about you, just like we care about your partner Paul as well. We care about everyone we meet, but every single time in a discussion with you or he, the spirits get so antagonistic that they're like, right at the moment, if we could talk to the spirits with you, they'd actually be yelling and screaming at me. Like, that's what they're doing right now, right?
I would like for them not to do that.
Well, you're addicted to power.
Yeah.
You want power. And you're going to have to somehow address that emotionally to become more open. Your question that you asked, if you were more humble, you could actually see that both things can actually be true. But you see them, and the spirits with you are constantly picking on everything being said, and without any clarification generally, they're trying to pick on everything being said to try to help you find a hole somewhere. And then what they want to do with you is they want to say, see, there's a hole. See, there's another hole. See, there's another hole. And then in the process of that, it cause you to go, that's all wrong then, because there's so many holes.
Yeah.
And that's their attitude. Their attitude is to try to get you away from truth, not to bring you towards it.
I want to say that I appreciate a lot of what you share very, very deeply. And that is overall my feeling towards divine truth, is that there's a lot that you share that I very much appreciate, and that's why I'm here. But there's a few things that I need to clarify for myself, because I cannot just accept all of it without putting my own thought and questions into it. So
and
that's where
you should absolutely put your own thought and questions into it.
You don't need to do that in this forum.
That's
though.
right.
By
There's
doing
a lot
it here,
of
you're being
demand.
selfish with everybody.
Yeah.
And this is how you're being unloving. By being this forceful about it, you're becoming selfish with everybody here. You need to have your own process, but you need to do it privately, right? Just like I have my own process and I do it privately, right?
Yeah, I listened to the audio again and I reflected on it, and then I still had a question. So I was on the topic of humility as we're talking about. I thought it made sense to raise it.
Yeah, and
it's not your questions that we
it's
are
absolutely
concerned
not your
about.
questions.
Your questions are often very good, actually. But it's the motivation driving them which we're concerned about.
Yeah.
It's the feelings that come from you and also the spirits with you when you're asking them. Yeah. You get into sort of this power frenzy that you want the answer. You want it now. You get very demanding. And these things are not in harmony with open acceptance or humility, actually. And it's all about managing the power over your own feelings. The general feeling you have is, I don't want to have to go through things if I don't need to go through things, is sort of the attitude. But there's also the spirits with you. They don't really even, they can see there's a number of very simple injuries that you have relating to power and men. They can see there's some simple injuries you have, and they have selected you to be with because they feel they can manipulate those injuries to the point where they will have almost complete control of your life. And unfortunately, because of the underlying addictions that you have towards power and feeling like you're better than others and feeling that you are superior to others, they feel that this is their opportunity. If we can criticise how you perceive truth, then and how you perceive divine truth that you've been drawn towards, and that if they can shoot a lot of holes in it to the point where and the biggest hole they're trying to do is shoot holes in me in every interaction. So there's a lot of rage from them towards me, and as a result, there's often a lot of rage from you towards me, sometimes towards Mary, but you feel that she's controlled by me. So, and the spirits also feel that as well. And so naturally, they project less at Mary, but mostly it's towards me. And the reason why they're doing that is if they can discredit me in your eyes, then the source of truth is also discredited. And now they can replace that source of truth with another one.
With themselves.
With themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
I still believe that so much of what you're sharing is true. I don't have a desire to replace that all with something else. And I also
Your
believe
addiction
that
for power.
because of many experiences that I've personally had.
Yeah.
So
well,
your addiction for power means you do have a desire.
Yeah.
You want it to support the power position you need emotionally. And the power position you need emotionally is you need people to listen to you. You need them to honour you. You need them to respect you. You need all of these things. And as a result of that, to get those things, you're going to need to have power over people. And that's why every time often you speak, I stop you. And then every time I stop you, you criticise me, is because I'm trying to stop the power addiction from getting enabled constantly when we're interacting with you, which is the reason why Mary's now raised this with you now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's going to damage you. And yesterday you were on the verge of being ejected from this hall because of it, not just because of you, but because of the spirits you like having with you.
Yeah.
And this is our concern, is that if you continue the relationship that you have with these spirits that you've established, even with more entrenchment than when we first met you, if you continue that, you're going to end up in a state where who knows what's going to happen the rest of your life in terms of the soul degradation that occurs, right? And that's what we're concerned about for you. The spirits with you are very, very dark. They've already selected you.
Yeah.
So, and, you know, partly because of the partner you're with, partly because of yourself, right? And they've already selected you. You know you were selected. So we've even had that discussion with you in the past, right? So you know you've been selected. And this is indicative of the problem because they know there are some emotional injuries in you that are going to be tough to get rid of, but they feel you shouldn't get rid of them. You should be proud of them and you should engage them and you should get the things that you want. And then as a result of that, they are going to manipulate your life severely to the point of self-destruction. When I say self-destruction, I don't mean self-destruction. You're not prone to harming yourself or anything like that. I mean self-destruction in the sense of harming others so much and harming them with false teaching so much that in the end of the day, when you pass, that you're solidly in the hells just like those spirits are. These spirits are in a rage, and almost everybody you talk to can feel the rage, but you can't. And so it's like, well, if you can't feel it, but everyone else can, like, that means you're quite desensitized to rage as a control mechanism of you, right? And while that continues to happen, you're going to find you're sort of carrying around this posse with you. And, you know, we've tried to talk with them, Mary and I, already, for your sake, and we can't. They refuse to speak to us, while at the same time try to abuse us at any time they possibly can. And it's like they won't speak to us, so it's going to have to be you that gets rid of them. Nobody else is going to be able to do it for you. But because you want them so much and don't understand the addiction that causes you to want them so much, they have quite a strong entrenchment with you already, right?
And I sort of feel at this point we need to stop because I don't feel you're receptive to that, and that's up to you. But now it's taking away time from everyone else here.
So you don't allow me to finish my question?
No,
I don't think
definitely
so.
not.
Yeah.
Okay,
no.
that's okay.
I don't know whether we can answer any more of your questions while they're driven by the spirits with you, telling you to ask that particular question, to poke holes in whatever we teach, so that they can get some more entrenchment with you. Their motive for giving you this information is already quite bad. And if you allowed yourself, they don't even allow you to think logically. That you think you're thinking logically. In fact, you quite arrogantly believe you think you're thinking logically, but you're actually, for the most part, having their thoughts. Yeah. And what their thoughts are is, there's a hole there, there's a hole there, there's a hole there. And because they don't have any sensitivity, the spirits don't have any sensitivity to God's truth and don't want you to have any. They're solid in the hells. They don't want you to have any either. They want to poke holes in everything. And this is what we find with people from the media. It's a similar feeling coming from you as people in the media. It's like, poke hole here, poke hole there, poke hole there. Oh, look, here, he actually got donations from people. There you go, that's wrong. And like, why is it wrong? It's the only way we can live. Like there's no, there's the desire for spirits in these positions of power to poke holes as much as they possibly can in divine truth, so that the least amount of people listen to it, so that there's the least amount of change on earth, because if there's any change on earth, these spirits lose their power. Yeah. And that's the big...
Yeah, I would rather not poke holes. I would rather ask questions for understanding, and I apologize for any part of my question that had that intention. I think it is a mixed intention.
Most of your questions do get angry, though. Eventually you do get angry and feel bitter when you cut off. And
I think right now I'm not angry at all.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that half the room's going to disagree with you.
Yeah.
But that's something you'll have to work your way through in terms of feelings.
Yeah, when we're feeling all this stuff that's not seeking, it's not humble, it's not innocently looking for truth, it's critical and judgmental, which is what we feel when you ask a question. and then you still want to proceed with the question, we want to respond to people who are seeking, you know, they don't have to have made up their mind, they don't have to accept everything we say just because we say
many haven't, right?
No, yeah. But we respond to a heart that's open and it's seeking, that opens you to truth. And
you
I
often
understand
have a solid opinion of your own.
Yeah.
You feel that our opinion disagrees. You want to criticise our opinion so you can retain the solid opinion of your own.
Yeah.
And that's
so it's
motivation.
quite difficult then to answer your question because it doesn't actually feel like a question. It feels like a point that you're trying to make.
It's a statement, really.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think
so
we should move on.
The statement you were just really making is I've contradicted myself.
Yeah.
That's really the statement you were making.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Well, you said on this day I said that, and on this day I said something seemingly the opposite, is what you believe.
No, I actually didn't think that it was the opposite. I think it goes together very well.
Can you feel what you're feeling right now?
I find it really hard to articulate, like actually share what I was, like where I was going to with it. I'm not so good at expressing myself.
I disagree.
So
you were very good at expressing yourself.
It doesn't feel like it. It feels very scary to me.
No, I feel your underlying emotion is that, but the desire for power also means the spirits are often expressing through you anger rather than actually the underlying feeling. Because anybody else in the room who's afraid and they're expressing themselves in fear, I have a completely different response to them, don't I? Yeah. But not to you or your partner, but to them, yes. Because a lot of what you call your fear is fake. It's really power. You want power. And that's what my concern is.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing your point of view.
Yeah, it's just my point of view. If you're going to continue projecting at me that my point of view is wrong the whole time we're here, then there's no point in you being here.
There is, as I said, a lot that I agree with very, very much.
I know.
Yeah.
I know there is.
But
I know when you do agree.
Yeah.
But I also know when you have a strong feeling of disagreement. Yeah. And I also can feel the spirits who disagree with me almost all the time. And the only thing the main thing they want you to do is get to the stage where you exercise this power emotion to such an extent that I ask you to leave. And then they get what they want, which is they get, there you go. See, there's the problem. He's the problem. And then they get to go, there's a problem with that. Don't listen to that anymore. And then, of course, they get what they want, right? So that's where they're leading us. To cause you to act in an unloving manner without knowing you are, to the point where I've got to say, it's way too unloving for us now to be in your vicinity and ask you to leave. And that's what they want. That's why I've resisted doing it, because I know what they want. But I'm also concerned though about what you want, because you're addicted to power at this stage. Desire for a feeling of superiority over others is very strong in you, and not equality, but superiority over others. And I know they're saying to you, even while I'm saying this, they're saying, but that's the way he is, but that's the way he is. Mm-hmm. And there's very little I can do about that. You're the one receiving those messages.
Yeah.
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 So let's move on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. You know, I'm also receiving these messages, but I'm also receiving the other side. Like, I feel like somebody's telling bad things about you, then somebody else is trying to prove them wrong. And
correct.
So
there's inside of you. There's sort of there's a what I said the other day, right? You remember remember that discussion? This discussion?
Yes.
Yeah, you've got that happening, right?
Yes.
Yeah. One hand they're saying, don't listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Look, he just said something opposite he said before. And the other one's going, but that's not true. And you're yet to make up your mind.
No, mine is more about pushing about how you are treating me, not what you are saying is true or not, because I have a fixed belief that what you're saying
yes, and also for Aria,
true.
that was the same thing. She's very worried about how I treat her, but her definition of how she should be treated has a high level of demand in it, just like yours does. You don't realise that a lot of what we've been brought up to think is right way to get treated is actually turned into, on our part, a demand, right, coming from us towards another. And any time I feel a demand coming from somebody towards myself or even towards another, I'm going to go, that's out of line. And I won't accept that demand, right? And then the average person who feels this demand goes, you don't love me now. Because my version of love is, I should be able to demand something and you should give it. If you loved me, you'd give it to me. Like, I'm desperate to know the truth. You should tell it to me. You know, I'm desperate to get some time from you so I understand this problem, because I don't want to resolve it myself, or I don't want to feel insecure in resolving it myself, or I've got spirit influences saying it's completely false. And in that place we go, you know, I'm desperate, I want it. So my needs are more important than everybody else's here, is what the end up of that is. And we're here to learn about love. Your needs are not more important than everybody else's. That makes sense? Everybody else here we're all equal. Your personal needs are your personal needs, and God understands them, and oftentimes we understand them too, but it doesn't mean they're more important than somebody who's been silent over here, who's never put up their hand and feels almost afraid to, given the atmosphere, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Then what is that contradiction in me? What am I feeling? Like, okay, the bad things that are coming, attacks towards you, yourself.
Yep.
And what is the other side of it, the contradiction side of it?
Every one of you is in a battle. Now, maybe we need to describe the battle. And then
Can I just make one point about humility before you flip?
I haven't finished with the humility.
No, but it's about demands.
Yeah.
When we're humble, we are not submissive, but equally we understand demand. We have no demands when we're humble.
Can we turn the heater off? It's getting
Yeah, I
hot
was
now.
just
Are
about.
you hot, guys?
Yeah, I'm hot.
I'm hot.
Now my point about
Go.
demands.
Yeah.
When we're humble, we have no demands. Yeah, we have none.
You know, Mary, that for me is a passion that I feel.
You just had one.
So,
Yes.
which one?
You just had a demand.
Yes.
You got to learn to recognise what the demands are. Mary made a statement. Say the statement again.
When we're humble, we have no demands.
And then immediately your demand was that she listens to your opinion. Instead of letting her statement settle with you, instead of letting it go, okay, when I'm humble, I have no demands. What does that mean for me? You didn't even hear the statement. It didn't even cross your mind, let alone your heart, because you didn't give yourself enough time to just feel it even and go, what did Mary mean? So if I was humble, Mary makes a statement. So Mary makes the statement again.
When we're humble, we have no demands.
And I'm going, why has Mary said that to me?
Because I did say it to you specifically because we had a talk in the toilet and you were saying, Jesus didn't meet all of my addictions to be heard. And what is your demand?
No, I said he actually...
There it goes again. There's another one.
No, but don't you
No,
want
there's
me
another
to
demand.
clarify the process?
You
I
did
said
say...
it triggered my addiction on
Yes.
my mom's side.
Yes, which is the same as not meeting it.
Even the demand just to correct Mary was another demand. Mary is making a point. What's the point?
Yeah. Well, what is my point? Do you know my point?
Yeah.
Yes, that I'm very demanding in a sense when I'm...
You don't see
asking
it as
for
a sin.
No, certainly I do, but I was explaining
No,
to you...
no, I have to disagree
You
with
just
you
did it
there.
again.
What I was feeling when I was doing that. So I was telling you
Let's
that
put the
on
board.
my side it was a blind enthusiasm, but obviously on the other side it was...
Now you're
No, no,
making
now you-
everybody listen to your story,
Yes,
which
and
is another
also
demand.
You're disassembling from the
And
demand.
every demand is unloving.
Yeah.
Every one you're having is
Yeah.
unloving. You demand, instead of letting Mary share some truth with you, you're demanding she hears your point of view.
And honestly,
Unloving.
when I felt that, when I am humble, I have no demands. Oh my gosh, it changed my whole attitude to my addictions. Yeah, I didn't then just go, oh yeah, but I had addiction that was triggered, so that's why I did it. I was like, oh crap, every addiction is a demand. Then I got to give them all up, you know. So I wasn't. I'm just trying to help you understand what I've understood because it's life changing. Yeah.
Well, it's life-changing if you accept it.
Yeah, when you
I really am not understanding it.
That's right.
That's right. And
I agree
hence
with
me-
that statement.
Hence me saying it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm trying, or maybe I'm not.
No,
But
no. No,
you're
not.
still, as Jay's trying to say, you're still in the demand you're in is stopping you just settling with, okay, right.
Yeah. So remember, was it a day or so ago when Tim said, put up his hand, he said something about that I'm an atheist. I just realised I'm an atheist. Now, when we have these sort of realisations that I just realised I'm demanding, right? If that had actually happened for you, then you immediately go, I've got to put the microphone away now, because it's like, I'm using this as a tool to demand things from people. I've got to get rid of that. And, every interaction you would then start questioning, right? You would question every interaction you have with every person. At the moment, your definition of love is, I have the right to be heard. And you don't. You don't have the right to be heard. When somebody listens to you, it's a gift they give you, right? And they don't have to give you that gift. They can completely go, I don't want to listen to you. They're allowed to. And they would even be loving doing that. They're actually, it's not unloving to say, I don't want to listen to that person. Right? That's not unloving. But you believe it is. And this is where the demand comes from. You believe that if somebody doesn't listen to you, they're being unloving to you. And I'm going, no. You're being unloving to them, expecting them to listen to you. Does that make sense?
I agree with you.
No.
No, I agree, but I don't feel when I do it. I agree with you.
So yes,
you don't agree, and this is what I mean when you said I agree. You're thinking I agree, but feelings is I don't agree with that. I want my demand. Right?
Or it's like we talked about a few weeks ago, where we have an awareness of sin, but no awakening to it in ourselves, and it's the awakening that's going to shift.
Yeah,
it's the shift, you know.
But see, between awareness and awakening, there's usually a big fight.
Yeah.
And it's important to describe what the fight is.
Yeah, let's do that.
Right? So where is sin stored? Where is it stored? According to what I'm teaching. In the soul. Okay. So here's your half of the soul, and the sin is in it. Like actually, physically stored as emotions and experiences inside of that soul. It's actually in it. Can you see that everything you hear is going to be filtered through that sin? Everything you experience from now on is going to be filtered through the sin. Everything you hear people saying to you, filtered through the sin. Every relationship you have, filtered through the sin. Everything happening to you is filtered through the sin. Absolutely everything. Your experience of the spirit world, filtered through the sin. Your experience of your earth life, filtered through the sin. Now, can you see from that what the big problem is? The sin inside me taints my perception of everything. Absolutely everything. When someone's talking to me, my perception of them, my perception of what they're saying, the words they're saying are all tainted by the sin that exists in me. All of it. And this is the difficulty you're going to have. All of you will have this difficulty. The difficulty is, how do I get truth in me now that this sin is in me? Because the sin in me, so let's put the sin as a great big red splotch, shall we, in our soul. The sin in me, everything being said and everything being experienced and everything happening is all going through my sin. So my very perception, my emotional perception, my sexual perception, my physical perceptions, sight, taste, smell, even sight, taste, smell, even your touch, everything, right the way through to everything spiritual perception, which are our highest perceptions we talked about, yes? All of it is tainted by my sin, the whole lot. So can you see what the battle's going to be? How do I receive God's truth when everything is tainted by sin? And my perception even of what the truth is going to be tainted by the sin. So I'm thinking I'm getting the truth. I'm thinking, oh yeah, I think I get that. So somebody talks about love. Oh yeah, I know what love is, sacrifice. You know, that's love. And so my perception when I say the word love is sacrifice. So when somebody doesn't sacrifice for you, you think they're being unloving. And when you didn't sacrifice for someone else, you think that you were unloving, right? Because the perception of even the word love is tainted by the sin. Now, can you see why an awakening to sin is so important? You see, unless we awaken to the sin, the perceptions of everything we experience will be governed by the sin. And so therefore, even what we're hearing, when we hear the word love, we're going to think it's one thing. When we hear the word truth, we're going to think it's another thing. When we hear the word humility, we think it's another thing. But it won't be what it is. It won't be God's reality of what it is. It'll be the thing that the sin dictates it should be, right? So the problem we face, the battle we actually have, is not with anyone outside of you. So, you know, before, in a way, you're sort of in a battle with Mary, you know, like not listening to her is a battle with her, right? But the biggest battle you're going to face is actually the battle within your heart and your soul. That's the battle. The battle is between the sin that's in it and the truth that could enter it, right? And this battle, while you fight things and while you resist things and everything, sin's winning. Sin's winning. And if you look at the earth, the way the earth is, sin is winning. It's winning with everyone because everybody has their own perception of what they call love, which is in the hells. And as a result of it being in the hells, sin is now winning. The sin that exists in each person is winning. Now, and the only way this is going to change is for some of the sin to come out. That's the only way any change is going to happen. Can you see? So to get this sin out, I must first become aware and then eventually get to the stage where I'm so awake to it that I see it as God sees it. Eventually, it's going to take a process of becoming first some kind of intellectual awareness, oh, this is a problem, right the way through to another state. And if I can get from awareness, because awareness is not good enough, because the sin's still there. Even when you're aware of it, you go, oh, I did this, and I know I do that, and I know I do this, but you'll keep doing it, right? Because the sin will dictate through its emotional state and through its experiential state, it'll dictate you got to keep doing it. You know, you got to keep having those addictions, and you got to keep having those fears, and you got to keep having that anger. It'll dictate to you that you should keep it. And the truth is saying, get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. So naturally now there's a battle. And the battle is problematic because it's inside you. Yeah. Right? And the reason why that's so problematic is every perception you have, even of truth, is tainted by your sin. Right? And this is the battle that is going to be so frustrating. It's going to be so it's going to probably, for the average person on earth, if you're dedicated, like life dedicated to this process, it's going to take you a minimum of 15 to 30 years to deal with it. Right? You're going to have to be, so people will say, why does anybody listen to me really? Because I'm not telling you there's any magical solution. I'm saying there's going to be a 15 to 30 year internal battle if you're dedicated. Right, of you getting rid of this sin to the state where, you know, you can even just receive love and actually get, and of course the more you receive love, the easier it will get. And if you receive love from God, I'm talking about, the easier the process will get because God's love changes your perception. And also, remember I said, I think it was on Friday, the causes can be eradicated by God's love, the cause of your sin, which means the reason why you sin the way you do can be gotten rid of, which means your perception can change. You follow? So the more you receive God's love, the more your perception changes. But to receive God's love, you have to have an awakening to each sin, to the sin. Not an awakening to the reason why you have it, but an awakening to it. Yeah. Like what you did, why, and everything about why you did it really is a part of it eventually will come to you. But what you did and being humble to what you did and what you... So in other words, right now, if we look at the interaction, it's like you were demanding every single time you opened your mouth. That's what you did. Right? You actually broke the law of love every time you opened your mouth. Now, the sin inside of you is saying, no, I didn't. How dare you say that? I was like, all I was doing was expressing my opinion, and all I was, that kind of thing. But the feeling inside is, the sin itself is saying, I should express my opinion. Everybody should listen to my opinion. Everybody here has to listen to my opinion. Now, everybody here didn't come to listen to you. They came to listen to me and Mary, right? So whenever you impose the whole audience listening to you, you're actually being unloving to them. It's the gift they're giving you to even listen in the first place. Every one of you, when somebody else puts up their hand and you listen to them, you're giving them the gift of your time, your energy, right? Mary and I are very sensitive to that. That's why whenever one of you becomes demanding, we go, you need to shut up now. Because everybody's here, not just us. So, but the point is, this sin is going to taint every single experience until it's gone.
It's like, isn't it? It's like it's a corruption of morality. It's a corruption of right and wrong. If we think about God's morality is what is right and wrong from God's perspective. But our sin creates this whole other system where we go, no, my sin is right and everyone else is wrong on this matter, or what have you. Yep. But it's like it creates a compass inside of you of right and wrong that's completely going in all the wrong directions.
It says north is south.
Yeah. And that's why it's a battle, because it's ingrained in you that this should be right, and then when you start to feel like, oh, maybe there is something wrong, then it feels quite intense, doesn't it? Because you've got
intense emotions they have to go through,
yes.
and so much resistance. The sin has so much resistance to feeling those emotions, by the way, as well. So it's sort of like, now the sin's in a fight. I don't want to feel those emotions. I don't want to have to feel that and release that. I don't want to let it go. You follow? And so what's happening is the sin is fighting for itself emotionally inside of you.
Yeah.
Inside you. It's the worst thing. It's the worst feeling. Like it's the, if any of you read the Paget messages, yep. When they talk about the pain and suffering of the spirit world, this is the pain and suffering. The internal battle between right and wrong that occurs inside the individual and not outside them. Now, the condition of the individual also puts them in a place, but it's the emotional state inside self regarding God's principles and laws that actually are the problem, that are outside, in opposition to God's principles and laws, that are inside of me now because I imbibe them through some errors in my family, but I also imbibe them because of all the things I did. All the things I expected, all the unloving things I chose to do in my life, all the experiences that were unloving that I chose to engage in my life. This is how the sin has gotten in me now. And the sin is there. It's demanding attention constantly. It's demanding that you live in harmony with it constantly, right? And this is the trouble. How do you have principles from God when the sin is opposed to every principle from God? It's tricky, eh? Mm-hmm. This is the battle. Mm-hmm. This is going to be the internal war that goes on with every soul. Now, in the Paget messages, there was a message from me saying exactly that the battle that you face is the battle that goes on inside of you. That's going to be the trickiest thing. And one of the things that is really hard to explain to a person is how the sin is changing their very perspective. Like, I sometimes related it to like putting on red glasses and you just see everything red, And that's what the sin is like. But it's worse than that because it's in you. It's like doing that. It's not something you can just take off and put on and take off and put on. It's like there inside. And this is the battle you're going to face, and the battle that every spirit, we haven't got to talk to some of these spirits yet, and we want to do that, right? So we'll do that after lunch. But every spirit whoever is faced with life in the spirit world always will have to go through the battle. So this battle is ahead of you, whether you like it or not. So my suggestion is like it. Because if you don't like it, it just lasts longer, takes longer, it's more torturous, and it affects a larger portion of your life. If you like the battle, if you can go through the battle and actually learn to enjoy it, because you're battling sin, the very thing that causes all the pain and suffering of earth, the very thing that causes all the pain and suffering of humanity that's ever been, has been the sin inside humans. And so have a feeling of
rolling up the
sleeves, like taking up the sleeves.
Getting down to it, yep.
This is a hard day's work, but it's going to be longer than a day, right? Have the attitude, it's going to be longer than a day. It's going to be longer than a week. It's going to be longer than a month. Roll up your sleeves. Be prepared to get down and dirty with your sin. And no, I'm serious, right? You're going to have this attitude of passion about dealing with it. Not sin again. Oh, no. But no, I want to know every sin. I want to know everything I do. I want to understand it. I want to understand what drives it. I want to, get some perception of it in myself. So, because if I have that attitude to my sin, I am conquering my sin. Now, one of the things, forget about power over others, forget about, having popularity, forget about having some notoriety in the world, forget about being the best sportsman and the best whatever. Go through the battle with passion, understanding that you're solving the whole world's problems, starting with yourself. Does that make sense? Yeah. And you imagine if just 20 people on earth had this attitude and they infected another 20 people like a virus with the same attitude, and they infected another 20 people with the attitude, you can see that just the changes you make and the attitudes you change will have an effect on other people. And if they make the same changes and the same attitude, you can be instrumental in a large number of people here on earth never, ever, ever having to experience pain in the spirit world. Ever. You could be instrumental in people passing into second sphere or the third sphere, which are much more beautiful than earth. So instead of going through the hells, where most people are going to have to go, because the whole world's in the hells, instead of going through the hells, because they have had this attitude, I'm a warrior. I'm battling my sin. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be violent about it, but I am battling my sin and I'm dedicated to the battle, and I'm going to keep this battle until it's done. And preferably, I will do it with God's help, right? But there are times when you're not going to get God's help because you don't want it, right? Because you feel oppositional to God's help or whatever. There'll be times when you feel like God's not helping me at all. And you'll feel angry even with God at times. But at the end of the day, understand, your sin is the cause of all the world's problems. And the only sins you can change are yours. You can't change anybody else's, right? You can influence other people into wanting to change theirs, but you can't do it for them. There's nothing you can do for another person on this issue. It's your sin, your battle. Treat yourself like the beautiful, powerful soul that God created you to be. Like a soul warrior against sin. Yeah? Treat yourself like that. Stop accepting this paradigm that's been propagated on earth through religious and other constructs that we're all imperfect. We're just human. That's why we do things wrong. We're just human. We're just imperfect anyway. We were created imperfect. Rubbish. None of us were created imperfect. right? God created every single individual perfect, and it's only sin that made us imperfect. And sin is our creation, so God's going, you got to get rid of it. I'm not going to get rid of it for you. I'm going to help you get rid of it. He created lots of mechanisms to help you, right? But he's not going to get rid of it for you. That's something you're going to have to do for yourself because it's in you now. That's why you have to do it yourself, because it's in you. Nobody else can reach inside of you and sort of take it out. You know, all this New Age philosophy that says you can, and all this Christian philosophy that says somebody can. You know, Jesus' blood does that. All absolute rubbish, right? No one's going to help you do it. You're going to have to do it. When I say help you, God will help you, but no one's going to do it for you. Like, nobody can. It's inside you. Nobody can do it for you. God can help you once you're willing to do it. That's all. That's all. God is not going to force you to do it. God's going to wait until you want help to do it, but he's not going to force you. The law will force you to do it. Sooner or later, you're going to have to do it. So get over the fact, like many of you have the attitude, oh, yeah, it all sounds too hard now. Sort of like, my God, maybe the best thing to do is not listen to divine truth anymore, sin some more, and then then just wait to the spirit world and it'll be easier. Well, I've talked to millions and millions of spirits in my lifetime. None of them have found it easier in the spirit world. Not a single one. Because most of you don't understand how the spirit world is constructed. It's constructed that the very sin you have will put you in a place where everybody else has the same sin. Yeah. Like, not only will everyone else have the same sin, you'll all be in a frenzy to keep committing it. That's what sin does. It's an addiction. It's like an addiction to smoke. It's like an addiction to drink. You'll be in a frenzy to keep doing it, just like you are on earth. So that's why if you can get a start here, if you can start here on earth, you're going to be light years ahead of yourself. In the sense that if you can get a start here, there's a whole heap of pain and suffering that you will not have to experience in the spirit world because you've got to start here. And to be honest, you almost just need a start at least. Like, you don't have to do the whole lot even on earth, and it's going to be better. Yeah. Right? But my suggestion is, why not do the whole lot on earth? Then you could have a good life, the rest of your life on earth. So you think, for many people who listen to Divine Truth, they might be in their 20s or 30s. Great. By the time they're 50, sinless.
Wow.
Right? And then the rest, then it's like, how long do I live? Well, I'm going to live probably a while, given that sin is normally the thing that kills me, right? So I'm going to live a lot longer than I would have otherwise. You know, you might live to 150 or 200 years if that's what you want, but you might not even want that. But it'll be completely different to what most of you think it's going to be, right? And the reason why is because this battle is inside, and it's just like, it's a difficult battle. Every single person who's ever engaged it, and every single person has to eventually, has found it the most difficult part of their entire life. Right? And then once it was over, they go, wow, I just wished we didn't sin in the first place. You know? Yeah. And you can understand why, because, and this is one reason why Mary and I returned to earth. It's just like, if you don't sin in the first place, then there's nothing you have to repent for. The sin itself gives you more clarity. The sin is, without sin, you've got more clarity. You can see truth better. You can act in harmony with that truth better, right? So this is what I would recommend to all of you to, and you know, I think in the future what we might start doing is every time somebody puts up their hand and starts talking, okay, there's another sin, and there's another sin, and there's another sin. It will annoy the hell out of everybody, right? But it's like, it's important sometimes to know that this is reality, right? This is one thing we're trying to do in the humility and practice days. Like, there goes another one, there goes another sin, there goes another sin. And of course, you know, it's very confronting for the average person who comes to one of those in God's way, because it's like, oh, no, leave me alone. It's sort of there. Let me be. Just don't talk to me at all. That's the attitude we have about a sin. The sin will do anything. It's slimy, slippery, deceitful, devious. It will do anything to prevent itself from being released. Right? Anything. It will even kill other people to stop itself from being released. Yeah. That's why we have wars. It'll rape people. That's why we have rapes. It'll cause huge amounts of violence in a family. That's why we have violence in a family, because the sin is not released. It will fight for itself to the point of how far it thinks it needs to go. And if you're not in a battle with it, you're going to let it go. Yeah. You're going to let it go where it goes. Right? So we see for many of you, you're hearing divine truth, but your soul keeps degrading because you don't understand your sin. Even your perception of divine truth is being tainted by it. Yeah. So you act in your sin, thinking you're practicing principles relating to divine truth, only to find that it causes more problems rather than solving any in your life. Yeah. So this is the thing. This battle with sin, I can't emphasize to you enough that you need to understand yourself better with your sin. Can't emphasize that to you enough. And Mary and I are doing whatever we can do to help you do that. But when we say interrupt you, we're interrupting you because you're already sinning. When we stop you, you're already sinning. That's why we stopped you. And a lot of people go, oh, I'm annoyed with that. There's your sin. Right there. We're trying to highlight it to you in every moment we spend with you. We're not going to wait for you to voice something while you're with us. We're assuming you want truth by being here, right? So this is what we want to do, and we want to get better at it.
Yep.
Like not we're going to be from your perspective worse than we are now. Does that make sense? We want to get better at go. There you go again. There you go again. There you go again. Right? And you see, a lot of times your questions don't really matter much. It's the sin behind them that we need to address. Yeah. Right? And because if you can address the sin behind them, God can share all truth with you. Every question can get answered. So unless we deal with the sin, anything I say to you is going to be tainted by the sin. Everything. So you can see, unless I say, okay, let's forget about answering all your questions. Let's forget about, how the spirit world works here and how that works there and all these fascinating things that you want to be fascinated by, even though they are very fascinating, right? Let's look at the real problem we have, which is the sin. Because if I get rid of this sin, my conscience will work. If I get rid of this sin, I can receive love. If I get rid of this sin, I can act in harmony with love and not sin again, which means that I've less problems in my future. I'll be happier. It's practical. People, when we start talking about sin, people go, not again. Why are we having these theoretical discussions? I just want to talk about my feelings about this particular thing in my life or event or whatever. You don't understand. It's practical to deal with the very problem you face, which is the perception you have of everything tainted by sin. That's the main problem the earth has. Yeah. That's why we're in the hells. Yeah. We think sin is love. Yeah. That's why we're here. On earth, in the hells, in the condition it is. Now, if everybody changed that position, we could be living on earth in the sixth sphere as a minimum, the way God intended. The environment wouldn't be damaged. You wouldn't be driving around motor vehicles anymore. You'd be able to teleport instead, right? You wouldn't have to use tech because you are the tech. Your soul is the tech, right? You wouldn't have to do any of those things. This is why when people talk about tech and having more energy production for tech, and I don't care. The sin is the problem, and while I'm in sin, I'm going to use my tech for sin. I'm going to use energy for sin. The world produces more energy, they're just going to use it to sin more. Right? While the sin is in me, that's what I'm going to do. Right? So the main problem we all face is the sin we are personally in. Yeah? That makes sense to everyone? Yeah? Very important to understand. It has changed your very perception of what is real. What you think is real is not even real. Right? Out there, it looks pretty, but it's not. It's not. From God's perspective, that is not pretty. Looking out there, it's total devastation from God's perspective. Right? The sin causes you to think it's pretty. You like some wide open spaces and some green grass and some nice, neat trees along the edge. Right? It's the sin that causes you to even think that view is pretty. Right? From God's perspective, it isn't, because there's so much damage in it. There's hardly any living things in that view, aside from the green things you see. And God didn't intend the world to be like that, right? And it's the same with our life. Everything we think is good, our sin is telling us is good. Everything we think is bad, our sin is telling us it's bad. Everything we think is right, our sin is telling us it's right. Everything we think is wrong, our sin is telling us it's wrong. Right? And until we get God's perspective and go, oh, goodness me, my whole perception, and gets back to this humility discussion. It's humble to realize that my entire perception of reality is actually based on my sin. What I think is real is actually not what God defines as real. And this causes us then to do things like present a facade to other people because we think that's real. And God's going, that's not even you. Yeah. Why are you doing that ever? That's not real. And one day you're going to come face to face with the fact that much of what you present to others is not even real either. Does that make sense? Not real. So this is why it's so important to deal with the sin. Yep. What's the time, people?
2:20, my love.
We need to have a break for lunch.
Yeah.
And what we might get, well, I think we'll probably only get a chance to do one.
Yeah.
I would love to help some of these spirits who are here too, because I've got questions about these matters. And so we would like to focus our attention after the break on helping them. And if you want to stay for that, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine to leave now. But I'm sure you enjoy it. By the way, what's on this board is not humility.
I know.
So
don't look.
So one thing that anybody who sees this and sees the board, one thing I would encourage you to do is, okay, if a lot of that, and I'm not saying all of that is not humility, there's a lot that's not. And so if that's not humility, what is? What is?
Yeah, and maybe we can pick it up to be continued at
continued at another venue.
Yeah,
not today's venue. But let's have some dinner, hey, and some lunch, and then we'll come back. Yep.
Let's come back at 3. Yeah.
Yep.
I'd say we'll finish more like 4:30. Yeah.
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 Those of you who
Thank
need
you,
to
guys.
leave at
Thank you,
4
guys.
or earlier today, feel free to do
Yeah.
so. But we may continue on a bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.